right. All right. Hopefully the audio is on. Yep, looks like it is. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's see what we get. So the first episode I did last week, I was kind of messing around with the quality, and hopefully I've got it pretty good now. I hope the audio should be good as well. Looks like the audio is on. Okay, so yeah. So I was kind of messing around with the audio a little bit and the quality and stuff like that last week. So hopefully everything should be good. It's just that we have a good connection. So, hopefully we're going to go with that. But yeah, so welcome back to, So welcome back to Let's Talk Television. This is episode 2. We're here on a Tuesday. I know I said last week, every Sunday I'll be doing these, and I should be good for next Sunday for sure. But it's just this weekend was pretty busy, and so I just figured, I still want to do the episode though, because we got a couple things to talk about, and one of the main topics actually that I want to talk about was this news that came out earlier today. So I thought actually, perfect that I did wait. Otherwise, it would had to wait till Sunday for me to talk about the news. So, pretty good. Ended up that I did wait, and we're here. So yeah, so this is just a weekly live show that I'm starting up again. I ran this I think about 4 years ago now. I went for I want to say about a year it was where I did like every week I did this live show, Let's Talk Television. So we started back then, and then I've just been busy a lot especially on the weekends when I wanted to do this for a while, and so hopefully Sundays now I have some time, and should be fun to get back into this. So we'll start off with me just talking about what I kind of watched this week in TV, what shows I'm checking out still, and then we'll get to the main topic. So the main topic this week is the problem with modern TV shows, and this is mainly talking about the gaps between seasons. And then along with that, the less or the kind of shortened seasons or less episodes that we get on top of waiting however long it takes for these new seasons of these shows to come out. So that's kind of the topic here. And of course, the main thing that spurred on this topic is we have some release date announcements for shows like The Last of Us is the big one, Peacemaker, and stuff like that. So I thought, when I saw the release dates for that, and I, got this idea in my head, I'm like, yeah, I want to talk a little bit about this as well for a topic. So, and then we got some news topics, and like I said, the big news topic is the Yellow Jackets season 3 release date. So we'll get to that towards the end of the show, and then another topic about a new HBO comedy. So, that'll just be about it. And of course, if you are watching live, if we have anyone watching live, feel free to, put your comments in the live chat, of course, at any time, or, questions, to, thoughts, whatever you'd like to share. That would be perfectly fine there for sure. Okay. So let's start off with then this week in TV. We're still looking good. I just want to monitor the stream, make sure that we're still live and I'm still on here, but we should be good. Okay. So this week in TV, so pretty much the same as last week. I think I did mention that last week that it would be the same shows I'd be talking about, but again, we have What We Do in the Shadows season 6 on FX, and to be honest, I haven't caught up on the newest episode. I think the one was yesterday, literally, that it aired. So I'm or maybe 2 episodes behind, but I think I'm like maybe on episode 5 or 4, something like that. And so kind of the same thing as last week, really. I only watched 1 episode this week of I think it was episode 5, and I thought it was good. Nothing blowing me away so far, but nothing that's been really disappointing or anything like that either. So just kind of good for Shadows. I think it was the premiere episode that I was kind of iffy on. I thought, okay, like, it's okay, and then the next few episodes that I've watched have been pretty good. So, keep going with season 6 of Shadows, the last season of the show. So I have my hopes up. I also think that they are hiding the titles, or at least I haven't been able to find them for the last 2 episodes of the season. So I have a feeling that they're doing that on purpose, obviously, because all the other episode titles are out for the season. So we'll have to see what that means. If they're a character death happens, or some big plot hole or plot line, that they're hiding. So really looking forward to what that has in store there. Okay, and then the franchise, season 1 on HBO. Again, I don't think I've seen the newest episode that came out yesterday or technically the night before. But episode 6 I did watch from this week, and I thought it was actually quite a really good episode again. Episode 4 and 5 were kind of disappointing to me. It was kind of getting to the point where it's just like stupid humor there, and like characters doing the stupidest things possible, and making comedy out of that. Whereas episode 6, I think, kind of got back to the kind of satirical nature of things, and it actually wasn't making a big comment on anything specifically, I don't think. But it was actually just really funny again, and I think the whole plot of the episode is, filming this big, massive scene where it's kind of a spoofing Oppenheimer with Christopher Nolan setting off like a literal bomb to get that shot in Oppenheimer. And in this, it's, this director getting this massive ball of fire, like literally lighting this, metal ball on fire suspended in the air to get the shot. And so I thought it was actually, again, and maybe it's commenting on that, but not necessarily the commenting that was the funny part in this. It was actually just a really funny episode with a lot of the stuff they played through. So, really, positive things to say about the franchise. Episode 6. Hopefully I think there's only 8 episodes, so hopefully the last couple episodes, really hit it home. But we'll have to see. And my thoughts on the season, I think, really do kind of rely on these last 2 episodes, because if they are disappointing and it kind of just fizzles out, my thoughts on it are going to be kind of leaning negative, I would say, even. But if they really are great and they're on like the level of episode 6 and the early episodes, then, I mean, this could be, in my top 10 shows probably of the year. So, honestly, these last 2 episodes are kind of critical for the way I think about the show, because it's been kind of uneven so far. But anyways, those are my thoughts on that one. And that's on HBO, of course, comedy on Sunday nights now. And then lastly, there's only 3 shows this week, but lastly is Sweet Pea. The finale aired, at least in North America. Apparently, I think the whole season, or at least on some sites, it says that the whole season was, public, available, I think in the UK at least, all in one day. So I'm not sure if some people like actually watched this whole series, a month ago now, October, I think it was. So basically when we got the first episode in North America, they got the whole season in the UK. So I'm not sure, if that, how much, if that's true or not. I haven't heard from anybody specifically who has seen that, but anyways, in North America, the finale aired, and that's, when I was able to see it, and so I did my review, I did a whole review video, separate video, for the series, the 6-episode series on the Stars. So far, it's just a series, but I do have a really great feeling that we are going to get another season of it, given the reception that it's had, and also the way it ends, with the series here. I feel like there's definitely room for another season. So really positive on the finale overall. Just the series, I thought it did kind of lose the plot, halfway through to me. I find it kind of it's missing that uniqueness, that the first few episodes had, and really kind of brought it to the kind of themes of like Killing Eve, Promising Young Woman, that movie with Carey Mulligan from a couple years ago. I saw also Dexter. I haven't seen Dexter, but I can definitely, just from what I know about Dexter, see those comparisons too. So the last couple episodes kind of disappointing, but that finale I think really brought it all home, especially the very end with kind of the cliffhanger they leave on. I thought was a great place to end the series, and a great payoff. So Ella Purnell's killing it with Fallout and now this. I have to do some thinking on this one, but I do think it might be in kind of my top 10, maybe even higher than that for TV shows this year. I really did enjoy, like I said, the first 3 episodes, and then I really liked the landing here. So, not, all positive. But yeah, definitely one of my favorite shows of the year. And also one of the most like unique shows that really stuck out. Like not necessarily, like the best objective quality show, but one of the like best times I had watching a show that I'll definitely remember, in a couple years from now, 2026, I look back on 2024 year in TV, and this will be a show, that I look back and remember. Something like The Regime from way earlier this year is exactly that for me. It's like, yeah, I had some problems with the show, but it's easily one of the most memorable, unique things that I watched this year. And that was, I want to say, like 8 months ago now. So anyways, Sweet Pea, thumbs up for me for sure, and I definitely recommend it if you haven't seen it already. I'm not sure what the ratings are. I don't think they're that high in terms of the viewership there. It is on Stars in North America and Sky Atlantic in the UK, so definitely check that out. Okay, so let's get to the main topic then. Everything with the live stream seems to be still going good. Okay, just have to check. All right. So the main topic here is the problem with modern TV shows, and like I said, the gaps between these seasons, and then along with that is the shortened seasons that we're getting, or the less episodes that we're getting, even though we have to wait even longer. So the main inspiration for the topic this week was this IGN article, where I believe Warner Brothers had some sort of, presentation or something like that, because there's just a lot of news about HBO and Warner Brothers properties on the TV shows this week. So I think they had some sort of presentation where they revealed a lot of this news, but this was obviously the biggest news really among all of the stories. And that is HBO Max reveals new release date details for The Last of Us Season 2 and Peacemaker Season 2. So we're just going to go through the article just real quick, and then I'll kind of get to my thoughts, of course, on the trend of what this is happening. But I thought this was a great article to kind of pinpoint, because these are two shows that are great examples. I mean, really great examples. I'm just going to quickly look up Peacemaker when that aired, because I can't remember. I think that was 2022. Yeah. Okay. So 2022, Peacemaker Season 1 aired. So this will be 3 years between seasons of Peacemaker. And then The Last of Us was early 2023. I think it was like January or something. And so as we will read an article, it is spring 2025. So that'll be more than 2 years between the seasons of The Last of Us as well. So bear with me here, but so we'll read some of this. So Max has revealed fresh release details for The Last of Us Season 2, confirming the much anticipated follow-up will be out in spring 2025. And then the streamer also announced that Peacemaker Season 2 will be out August 2025, just 1 month after the release of James Gunn's Superman. So we got the whole DCU stuff happening here, and so Peacemaker kind of slots in, I guess, right behind where, Superman, I guess that's the first movie. I'm not well versed in all the DCU stuff, but I think that's kind of the first movie of this new kind of renaissance, if you will, of the DC universe. So, okay, yeah, so the KC Boys made the announcement during the 2025 programming slate presentation, so exactly what I thought. And previously we just knew that the follow-up would be coming sometime next year, and likely in the first half, but no more solid release windows beyond that. And yeah, so we get a little bit of information about it. I guess we'll go into this. So Season 2 will adapt the events of The Last of Us Part 2, the video game, of course, although showrunner Craig Mazin previously confirmed that it'll take more than one season to tell the story of that Part 2 of that game. And Mazin also recently revealed, so here's the kicker, that Season 2 would have a shorter episode count than the previous installment in preparation for a significantly larger potential third season. So, okay, I mean, he's just promising that it's a bigger Season 3, like, look forward to that. Season 2 will be shorter, but Season 3, wait for Season 3, right? And then he's quoted saying, and indeed the story may require a Season 4. Is what Craig Mazin said. So, yeah, and then we get, I think Caitlin Dever, right, is it Caitlin Dever that is coming in as, it doesn't say here, it doesn't list her name. Jeffrey Wright is Isaac, Catherine O'Hara. more anticipated than Abby. Okay, yeah, they say it here. So Caitlin Dever would be playing Abby. Really big fan of Caitlin Dever. So that's awesome to see her coming in there. And then what else? Peacemaker Season 2. While grounding in the DCU, John Cena will return in the title role along with Frank Grillo as Rick Flag Sr. And that's really actually it. There really is not much news on Peacemaker Season 2. It's really just saying, that John Cena's coming back. It's like, okay, pretty obvious stuff there. But anyways, so the big stuff out of this article is that The Last of Us is coming out spring 2025, right? And it'll have less episodes than Season 1. And then Peacemaker is coming out in August 2025, just after the Superman movie. So that is what's going on there with that article. And so that's where I thought I would kind of grab that one and dive into that a little bit with the big news about those two shows. And kind of slide it into this discussion because... yeah, like I said, Peacemaker, this will be over 3 years between seasons from premiere date to premiere date, at least, for that show. And of course, I think Peacemaker, you could say there's like kind of some exceptions in there, right? Because obviously it had to be a part of the whole DCU rollout and had to fit into their plans of that. So fair enough. I mean, there's some... stuff with that, and James Gunn obviously being very busy now and maybe not having as much time to work on the scripts, even though I'm not sure that, I'm sure he'll have other writers there that are writing a lot of those scripts for the episodes, but regardless. So there's a couple little things with that, but The Last of Us Season 2, I think it really is a good example of what I'm talking about with a lot of these shows. A few other ones, right? House of the Dragon is a big one. I think I want to talk about House of the Dragon quite a bit in this one because there's just so many glaring things with that are exactly what I want to talk about. Because, and honestly, so we've heard news, I'm not sure when this was, I want to say about a month or two, maybe 2 months ago now, where George Martin revealed they haven't even shared the scripts with him for Season 3, and kind of alluded to the fact that, like, they weren't even close to being finished for the scripts for Season 3 of House of the Dragon, and... I mean, this is, Season 2, so when did Season 2 end? I want to say it came back in, I think, June, right? Something like that. So probably ended in August or something, or July. Maybe July it ended. I can't remember exactly, but, the timeline of things is typically the scripts would be basically done, right? Or very close to being done by the time the season ends airing, or finishes airing, right? For, the previous season, Season 2, ends airing, we'll have the scripts ready for the next season, and then we go into production. And even with that timeline, you're probably looking at least a year, probably more than a year between seasons. And they haven't even, it doesn't even sound like, and some of it sounded like they hadn't even really started writing the Season 3 scripts, or didn't have a good idea of the direction where they wanted to go in the season. So that is horrifying, right, for House of the Dragon fans, especially after what Season 2 gave us. So that's a big one, right? But even then, Season 2 and Season 1, so when was Season 1? When did that come out? That was in 2022, right? And then, obviously, it was 2 years until 2024, till the next season came out. So there you go. Severance is another one. Obviously, that's a massive one too, right? So that was 2022. I can't remember when it came out in that year, but it's probably close to 3 years by the time it'll come out again. It's coming out in January. We already have the release date for that one. So, in just a couple months from now. But that'll almost be 3 years, I think, between Season 1 and Season 2 of Severance. And then, of course, The Last of Us that we just talked about, that'll be 2 years, right, between, or more than 2 years, actually, between those seasons. Peacemaker, like we just talked about. Stranger Things, another massive example here that I'm going to talk about. It'll be, so we know it's coming in 2025. I just discussed the teaser that was released last week on last week's episode, Let's Talk Television. And it's coming out, it says coming 2025. Everything's kind of pointing towards probably a later release in 2025, probably closer to the fall, maybe September, October time is what I'm predicting and what I've seen other people predicting. And if that's the case, it also came out, in the summer, I want to say, of 2022. So that'll be more than 3 years between season 4 and 5 of Stranger Things, right? Like, crazy. That's crazy stuff. If the release dates line up like that, but minimal, it'll be 3 years between that. And then Fallout as well. I didn't think this was as big of a glaring example, but it is a show that aired this year, and apparently they have started production on it, or they are about to start production on season 2. I think that was kind of a news topic of last week. But even with that, I mean, considering the length of production, I mean, probably 6 months or something like that, like 4 months at least, right? And so we go in, they'll probably take a Christmas break and all that stuff, for Thanksgiving, the holidays. So by the time that actually finishes, maybe the spring of next year, maybe April or May or something like that. And then you got to do the post-production and all the effects and everything. So I think that would be very... it would be very ambitious, I think, to say that Fallout Season 2 is going to come out next year in 2025. I think it's probably a 2026 release for that show as well. So again, you're more than a year, probably a year and a half or something you're looking at for Fallout. So not, as bad as some of these other examples, but I think it definitely is kind of in that pool as well. Okay. So let's get to some of the reasons for these long gaps between the seasons, or at least some of the ones that I kind of brainstormed here, and we'll talk through them. So the first one, which I think is probably actually the main reason, and the most reasonable reason as well for this stuff, is the visual effects industry. It's just overloaded. And, if you look into this at all, and I'm, of course, no expert on this stuff, but just from what I have seen and what I've read, it's just insane, right? And even just common sense, right? Like the amount of shows that are on right now, the amount of visual effects that are used in a lot of these shows, yeah, it would make sense that the visual effects industry as a whole would just be completely overworked, overburdened at this point, because the visual effects industry hasn't grown at the same, pace or the same size as the television and movie industry has in the last few years. And so you can easily, and even before, right, this kind of blow up with the streaming services and the platforms and everything, the visual effects were already kind of overworked, right? And the conditions of the industry were kind of, problematic, if you will, right? They had issues delivering on timelines and getting, good. That's also the thing too. It's not necessarily just, you finish the visual effects in time for the release date. It's finishing good or great visual effects work within that timeline. Because obviously, you have less time, but then also you probably have hired a lot more workers than you would have liked that maybe aren't, delivering great, work every single time, to make up for the workload and the amount of work that you have to do. And so then you end up with, subpar visual effects, as we've seen in a lot of, Marvel movies and that type of thing, other movies too, and TV shows, right? So you get lackluster visual effects because they have such tight timelines, and so they have to really kind of bear down, and that results in some bad visual effects work. I don't know, it's maybe not bad, but just, not to the same par that we're used to, especially at this point, in 2024, with all that we have seen and how far visual effects have come. When you see good visual or great visual effects, it's really hard to, not notice when they're not on that level. Right. So, I think that's a big one for such long gaps, and that's, I think it's the most recent one because it is kind of out of their hands. Like, it is out of the studios and the creators and the producers. It is kind of out of their hands at the end of the day, right? Like, they need all these visual effects shots. They go to, the company or, the few companies that they work with, and a company says, we have like 8 months of work right now on our plate. We'll fit this in, maybe we'll get it back to you in, 4 months or, whatever it is, right? Again, I'm no expert. I don't know how long this stuff takes, but let's just say that, right? And what option do they have, right? So then they go to a different company that'll do it in less time, but then the visual effects work is not going to be as good, let's say, right? Or it's going to be lackluster, and so then they have to worry about the fans reacting to lackluster visual effects. And so I think there's this kind of perfect balance that they have to make in that, okay, do we want the greatest visual effects ever? Or, do we want to meet our timeline for release and not, wait 3 years in between seasons? So it's kind of this, they have to find a balance. And unfortunately, I think the balance is just stretching farther and farther and farther. And we're getting a lot more time in between seasons because these visual effects, the VFX worked has to be done, right? And it takes so much time for it to be done with so many shows and movies right now being made in the industry that require visual effects. And that's the other thing too. Like, I think another side to this is that there was a lot more practical stuff, right, being done. Well, also less high concept fantasy shows that you see a lot now, right? There was a lot less of that in TV before. But I think there also is kind of an over-reliance on visual effects these days and less practical stuff, where, obviously in, 10 years ago, let's say, the visual effects were not as good as they are now, and so they kind of had to go with practical effects a lot of the time, and so obviously that's just a lot faster, right, to get things done. So I'll give them that one. That might be really the only reason that I think is pretty reasonable and kind of out of their hands for a lot of these shows that do require a lot of visual effects. And so, that could definitely contribute to the longer wait times between the seasons being done. Something like House of the Dragon would obviously be in here. Pretty much all the shows I named, like The Last of Us would be in there too. Peacemaker, not as much probably, but Stranger Things, obviously, with the Upside Down and all the things they did in season 4. Big time. Fallout, massive show with that stuff. Severance, I think a little less so for Severance, actually, though, when you think about it. So that's an interesting one, right? Some of these maybe you let off the hook, but some not. So Severance might be one that you kind of look at, and out of that list, at least, of shows, you're like, do they have that many visual effects? But again, the thing is, too, like, to an untrained eye, it looks like, oh yeah, they probably just shot that in camera, but a lot of the times, just very basic things, like just the background of a shot, they have to fix up and put some visual effects on to make it look better, stuff like this. So you just never know. Okay, so then obviously the increased quality and the higher budget of the shows, right? And so this is a big thing, kind of a reason that some people say is, oh, well, you have to wait two years between seasons because the quality is so much better now, right? We have never seen, shows of this quality and this, budget being put to, the small screen, if you will, the silver screen or whatever, right? We didn't see this on TV before. And so, now if you want the quality, you have to wait, right? Like, that's kind of the thing. And so obviously there is some validity to this, of course, right? It's, higher budget for these shows, more going into it, the increased or higher quality of these shows. Again, something like House of the Dragon, The Last of Us, right? Stranger Things for sure. Fallout, in a lot of Fallout, you really notice. Like, it really just looks visually appealing, and the world is so big, so much world building and quite a few characters and settings and all that stuff. So, you feel it, right? Obviously, and that's a big draw to the whole streaming age that we're in right now, and watching these high concept fantasy shows that at one time, in the not so distant past, were only available in movies, right? If you went to the theater and you saw a feature film, but now you're seeing that on TV, and so yeah, for sure, kind of has some validity to it. Yes, higher budget, higher quality equals longer wait times to, put this out, to meet that quality standard. But the one exception to this, well, there's probably many exceptions, but the biggest exception to this is Game of Thrones, right? Like, what happened there with Game of Thrones seasons 1 to 6, at least? I think 7 was slightly after, and then obviously 8 was about a year and a half after. But seasons 1 to 6 of Game of Thrones, believe it or not, premiered every year, right? There was about 1 year or less even, I think, between each season. For 6 straight years, they ran a season of, 10 episodes of television every year for Game of Thrones. And even, to this date, with all these new shows and the streaming services and all the money they put into it, I think a lot of people would still agree, and I definitely think this, that Game of Thrones had some of the best quality of any TV show ever produced, right? And even to this day, it stands up in that regard. Episodes like Battle of the Bastards, Watchers on the Wall, Blackwater, a lot of those big battle episodes that you saw throughout Game of Thrones, I mean, like, that's just insane. Like, just insane that they were able to pull stuff like that off in a TV show. Even like compared to, the best of the best in movies in those types of, battle scenes and battle episodes and stuff like that. It compares just as well to movies too. Like, just really impressive stuff in terms of the quality. And obviously the budget of the show was big, and they delivered, for 6 years, a season each year of 10 episodes. Now, obviously Game of Thrones, they did have the big advantage of all these characters being spread out, right? And so they could have different units where they shot, literally just, Jon at the wall, right? And so they could just shoot that in, a couple months probably. And then at the same time as they were shooting Jon at the wall, they could shoot, Tyrion at King's Landing, and all these different things, right? Arya at with the Hound or something, or anyways, all the different perspectives that you got, right? They could all shoot them consecutively because almost none of these characters actually interacted with each other. Oh, Dany, that's a perfect example, right? Like, they could film all of her stuff at the exact same time as Jon at the wall. Obviously, they had to coordinate it and all that, which is, no small feat. But they could do that. So that's a big thing, fair enough with Game of Thrones, but still, at the end of the day, that they were able to do that for 6 years of 10 episodes each year, I think that kind of speaks to, okay, there was amazing quality in that. The budget was big for that show, and they were able to do it. So, and you see some of that, like Stranger Things, I think is a good example of something like that, where the majority of all of those seasons of Stranger Things, these characters are always split up. Like, it's only in the very finale or the last couple episodes of each season where all these characters are together, and so you'd have to film all the scenes together. But up until that point, there are at least 3 or 4 different, perspectives or groups in Stranger Things throughout the season that you could easily film their scenes consecutively, or not consecutively, concurrently with the other, groups and scenes like that. And so this is something that Stranger Things could definitely do, but as we know, it'll be 3 years, and I think, was it 3 years between season 3 and 4 as well? I think so. So yeah, I think Stranger Things is a perfect show like that you could easily do that with, and so I don't really see an excuse for Stranger Things in that regard. Even House of the Dragon season 2, you saw that with a lot of the stuff. Matt Smith as Daemon, right? Not to speak on the quality of all those scenes, the same scene just every single episode, but he was definitely separated and had a whole different, perspective on the season of House of the Dragon. So again, you could film those scenes at the same time you could film Rhaenyra's scenes and have different units going on at once. So there's lots of, ways, if they really wanted to and they really, thought things through, that they could exploit the same things that Game of Thrones did and give us a new season each year. So I don't completely buy that point there. And then the next one is the casting of in-demand movie actors who have lots of obligations. This is a big one, I think, especially with the recent, streaming services. Apple is a big one with this. HBO as well, Netflix too. There's certainly a lot of them now. These streaming services, but specifically I would say like Apple and HBO probably, they're getting massive actors now, like massive movie actors who have, been nominated for Oscars or, are leading actors in big Hollywood movies now, and they're bringing them to TV, right? And so now they're coming to a 8 or 10 episode show where they have to obviously, show up to film for months at a time, right, to work on that season. while also probably already having existing obligations with other movies they want to do and all this stuff. And so this does obviously come in to the scheduling of seasons and trying to coordinate this stuff with actors, like I said, who already, would have obligations. So some examples, Pedro Pascal in The Last of Us, that's a big one, right? And I'm not sure exactly, how much impact that had on season 2 filming and all that stuff, but he's a big one, right? He would have tons of other obligations and other roles where The Last of Us would, probably have to schedule around those. Or not necessarily schedule around those, but at least, he would have a say in when they go into production and when he wants to do that, being the star of the show, right? And then Colin Farrell in The Penguin. I mean, he is so busy. He is in a lot of roles. Recently, he's been doing amazing in his career with movies and TV. He was also in Sugar, the Apple TV series. Speaking of Apple, the Apple TV series earlier this year, and now he's in The Penguin. And then you've also, now that The Penguin has ended, you've heard now, of rumors and kind of rumblings that they might do another season of The Penguin. And it's like, okay, when is Colin Farrell going to be available to do that even, right? And it's a big commitment. He's done some interviews, talking about having to do all the makeup and all the time that goes into, putting on that costume or that disguise almost as the Penguin and acting in the show. So a big commitment for Colin Farrell. And so obviously he would have to, put some time away to actually do another season of The Penguin, and they obviously have to coordinate with him and schedule that around. So that could be, and that's, I think, actually a really good example of this where, the guy is really busy, and so I feel like they would probably just say, okay, whenever you're free, we'll do another season. So I don't think there'd be any rush in terms of that one. Another one that I thought of was, Zendaya, but also a lot of the others in the show too. Sydney Sweeney as well, but Euphoria, right? That's another one where I'm not sure this is, for, the biggest reason or the only reason that we've seen such a huge gap in these Euphoria seasons, which I believe as well, there was an announcement that they've gone into production, that they're about to on the next season of Euphoria, and they are getting everybody back together for it. But again, Zendaya, massive star right now, especially since Euphoria started, she really blew up. And Sydney Sweeney, I mean, perhaps one of the biggest, actresses right now in terms of the movie space, right? So, they're busy, and so obviously Euphoria has been, at their kind of beck and call of when they're available that we could do another season and actually get everybody together. And that's the other thing, too. It's that not necessarily just having Colin Farrell as the Penguin, but some of these shows have multiple actors on this level, like I just said with Zendaya, Sydney Sweeney. So it's like, not only do you have Zendaya who has to put away time to film Euphoria, but then you also have to get Sydney Sweeney available at the exact same time as Zendaya to film the next season of Euphoria. So it gets very complicated. So this one is fair, I think. These movie actors who are very busy having to, free up some time to film these shows. And so they're kind of at the behest of these actors, which is kind of of their own doing, of course. They're the ones who choose to cast these actors knowing that they'll have lots of obligations. But anyways, a fair point nonetheless. Okay, so then the last one that I wanted to talk about here is the higher quality or the budget of these shows affecting the ability for these networks and these streamers to commit to renewing the future seasons ahead of time, right? And so this is something that, of course, helps in the process, of shortening that time in between the seasons, right? Something like, well, and this is a great example of the ridiculousness of this, but Rings of Power, right? I'm pretty sure, at least, I maybe should look into this, but I'm pretty sure that they renewed or greenlit the first 2 seasons right away for Rings of Power, right? They greenlit, they paid what was it, almost like $500 million for the rights and the whole budget of the show, right? And so they committed to 2 seasons right off the bat to to Rings of Power, and yet we still had tons of time in between seasons for Rings of Power. So that's kind of ironic there. But anyways, that is what I've heard, right? Is the budgets are so high right now, and the quality of these shows, right, is so high, and the budget is so high to make that quality of a show. And so they have to really know whether it's worth renewing for future seasons. And because of that, they have to wait until the very last minute to renew a show. And by then, then the writers don't have enough time to finish the scripts, and then they have to go into production and all this stuff. So it just delays everything. Whereas other shows before, committing to another season of the show ahead of time wasn't as big of a deal because the budget was not as much. They weren't going to lose as much. Renewing a show like that, if it didn't work out, let's say, right? This is all, based on the fact that, if the season doesn't work out, we don't want to commit all of this money to it and produce another season that's not going to get the ratings or not going to get the buzz, right? Now, I don't really completely buy this one either, though, right? Like, I've kind of set it up, right? It seems kind of rational, but I don't know. You see this with a lot of other shows. I already said the Rings of Power example, and even that. Like, that's something where, it's Rings of Power. Like, you don't think that that's going to be worth committing to another season? Like, it's a massive show. Lord of the Rings is a massive property. Like, it just seems like, even without them, committing to the first 2 seasons off the bat, that would seem like a smart decision, right? Like, it's a big show like that, you would really have to screw it up. And even then, like, a lot of people borderline hated season 1 of Rings of Power, right? Like, especially big fans of Lord of the Rings, books and the movies of Peter Jackson. They borderline hated, some of them hated that first season. And yet season 2, had big ratings and got a lot of buzz still. So, stuff like that. House of the Dragon 2, I think it's absolutely ridiculous that they would have to wait till the last minute to commit to another season of that. I think that's ridiculous. I mean, the show was massive. Game of Thrones was massive. Maybe you could have some reservations going into season 1 that, the audience was so sour after the finale of Game of Thrones that they would even think to come back for another spin-off. But after season 1 and the success it had, I don't know. To me, like, it's just a no-brainer. The fact that you would, season 2 is nearing, it's going to come out soon. Yeah, it's obvious that the show is massive, one of the biggest shows on right now. Let's go ahead. Ryan Condal and team, start working on the scripts for season 3. Even if you don't publicly announce that you've renewed the show for a season 3, you at least tell the writers and the team, everybody behind the scenes, okay, we're gonna give this a season 3 because it's like one of the biggest shows on TV right now, and gonna make us a lot of money. So let's work on the next season and let's try to get this one out sooner, right? I don't know. I just don't understand why that doesn't happen for a show like House of the Dragon. Stranger Things 2, I mean, come on, right? Like, that was, and I think it was like they knew that they were being renewed anyways, and still we've had to wait this long. So I do want to mention, obviously, the strikes. Obviously, last year the strikes do play some role in some of these shows like Stranger Things, obviously. But even without the strike, Stranger Things should have been back a lot sooner, and the strike had no part to play in between season 3 and 4. So it's part of the conversation, but not a big contributor in this case. But anyways, something like Stranger Things, they obviously knew that they were going to do more seasons of the show. It's quite literally the biggest show on right now, right? And so it doesn't make sense that they would, kind of hide the fact that they would get another season and not give the Duffer Brothers as much time, ahead of time to work on those scripts and get another season out quick. So anyways, for some of these big shows, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Other shows, that are kind of a little more riskier, I get that. It does make sense. They do have to hedge their bets, on whether it'll work out or not and kind of wait to see. But some of these other big shows like Rings of Power, House of the Dragon, Stranger Things, to me, there's no excuse there not to get these seasons going ahead of time and let people know, we're getting another season, start working on the scripts, and let's fire things up here so that we can go into production basically right away, right? Right away when the last season finishes airing or is even already airing, let's go into production and get this next season ready. So, yeah, no excuse there to me for those shows. And then obviously less episodes per season. So to me, this is a little more reasonable. I think people are able to forgive this one. I am able to forgive this one a little bit more than the big gaps in between seasons because you're getting a higher quality, right? And like I've said many times, higher quality, higher budgets of these shows. And so it makes sense, right, that you would have less episodes because the budget is so massive. You want, every episode to be on that same level. You want that quality in every single episode. And they're only able to do that with such a big budget in, 8 episodes or at the very most, right, these days, 10 episodes, right? So you don't get those 13, 16, certainly not those 20 episode seasons that they used to do, mainly a network, but shows like Breaking Bad, Mad Men, Walking Dead, right? All in the 13, 16 time there or area. Sopranos, another one that always was 13 until the last season. So, yeah, you don't see that anymore, not at all. Very, very, very rare that you see that at all. And so, yeah, so you want that higher quality. It just comes with less episodes because the quality is just so good, and they have to have this budget that's so massive, they can only spread it out so far. Now, an example of something like this that came to mind, was Breaking Bad, the Fly episode, right? That's a great example, kind of in the history of the at least the golden age of TV, right? A great example of where you had 13 episode season with the same budget. And so the Fly episode is, if you look into it and read more about it, I think Vince Gilligan has admitted in the past that they pretty much just ran out of money, right, for the season of Breaking Bad because of the things they wanted to do with it. And so they had one episode where they had basically no money, right? Like they couldn't go on location and do any shoots or anything like that, or have any other actors in it. They could really only afford, to film on the sets they already had and to have Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul in an episode, right? Like that's pretty much all they could do. And so they found a creative way to do that, right? To do an episode that would literally cost them basically nothing, or no extra cost to produce, and still made a 13 episode season of Breaking Bad, but with an episode like that in there that, again, was no extra cost to them, and that they could still produce and still keep, under that budget that AMC gave them for the season. And, of course, still do those big episodes, I'm sure, that they had at other points in the season. So that's just a creative way, right, to do more episodes. And, I mean, some people consider that one of the greatest episodes of the series, right? So really creative and effective way to do that, to do an episode with basically no budget. Now, House of the Dragon Season 2, I think, is a big example that completely disproves this, right? Because a lot of the season of House of the Dragon was episodes like Fly, right? Like there was, or at least, not the whole episodes, but a large portions of the episodes, especially Damon's storyline with Matt Smith this season. I mean, they were literally just basically Fly episodes, like that, where it's like a very, contained setting with only a couple actors in it, and not much happens in terms of like the action and the set pieces. You're basically filming on the same sets that you already have, very little effects work, and yeah, like limited actors and all this stuff, right? That was a lot of House of the Dragon Season 2, and yet we still only got 8 episodes of it, even though the budget was so high and it's such a high-quality show and all this stuff. And yet that is what we still got a Fly episode, basically, right? The equivalent to that in 8 episodes of a season, right? So now we're at the point where Breaking Bad did it with 13, and now House of the Dragon, I mean, there was more than one episode that seemed like a Fly episode, right? But they did it in 8 episodes. So I don't know what that says about the landscape of modern TV. Maybe we're going to 6 episodes next, or 5 even. I think The Diplomat on Netflix is a recent example. They only did 6 episodes for their season 2. So Yeah, it's crazy. Like, it's just crazy. And I think it ultimately comes down to something like that, where, The Fly episode's an extreme example, but I'm sure there's lots of other shows in that period there that did stuff like that, where it just comes down to make a creative choice, make something like that where it's a little risky, right? But okay, so you want to, you want to do a 10 episode season of House of the Dragon season 2, you really only have the budget to do 8 episodes, let's say. Well, think of a creative way to do 2 more episodes in there, like, Breaking Bad did with Fly, and they actually did that in a few other seasons too. I think it's, what's that one episode? It's like 4 Days Out, I think I want to say. Something like that. Where that's actually another episode of Breaking Bad where they did a similar thing where they had very little budget left. And so they did an episode where basically Jesse and Walt get stuck out in the country with an RV. And almost the entire episode is just them in a field in an RV. So, but again, one of the better episodes of the show because it's the writing and it's just so creative, right? But you don't see that, especially not House of the Dragon Season 2, and you just don't see that in a lot of these shows now. So, I don't know. I think it's, less episodes per season. It's reasonable if the show is really firing on all cylinders every episode. But stuff like House of the Dragon Season 2, yeah, no. That's a terrible example of that, and there's just no justification to me to only have an 8-episode season if that's what you're going to give us in those 8 episodes. So that's my thought there with less episodes. So overall, just to end the discussion here then, it's just very frustrating, right? A very frustrating trend with modern TV shows. But the good thing is, at the end of the day, there's a lot more shows to watch while you're waiting for the other ones to come back, right? I think that's like the only positive out of this whole thing is that, yeah, you had to wait 2 or 3 years for your show, for one of those shows to come back. But luckily, one of the other shows that you also watch, it's been 2 years since that last season aired. And so now, it's back and you can watch that for the next, 8 weeks or however long it is. Certainly not more than 10 weeks, right? Because they can't produce more than 10 episodes. And so, yeah, that's what you get for that. And so you can watch that show, and then it kind of, distracts you from the fact that, oh, yeah, it's been 3 years since the last season of Stranger Things, hasn't it? Because you've already, now you're watching other shows that have come back. So, and of course, there's many shows out there that are still producing a season every year, especially comedies, right? It's a lot easier to do that. So it is what it is. But yeah, just a very frustrating trend overall, and I thought definitely something to talk about here for this week. But yeah, so that'll basically do it for the main topic here for that. And now we can kind of get into some of the news topics here. We'll just check on the stream and see if it's still good. Good connection? Okay. Everything's all good with that. Thanks for tuning in, by the way, if you are watching live here. So, okay. All right. So, let's get to the news topics then to end things off. And the first one then is the Yellow Jackets news. So, big news here. I'm a pretty big fan of Yellow Jackets. I thought season 1 was quite good, like really quite good. I didn't think it didn't blow me away or anything like that, but I thought it was really kind of unique, really stood out to me, and I was just so intrigued to watch each episode of that. And season 2 was a step down from season 1, but it still really captured a lot of the same elements, and a lot of the intrigue was still there, at least with the younger timeline, right? So they've run 2 timelines here with the younger, the teenagers basically, and the adults. And I think the teenager timeline was almost on par with season 1. It's the adult timeline that really kind of took a step down in season 2. But anyways, so we got news from this Variety article here. So Yellow Jackets season 3 sets Showtime premiere date, and this just came out today as of the episode here. So the new season of the thriller drama will premiere with 2 new episodes. So again, 2 episodes on February 14th, 2025. So Valentine's Day, quite a day to premiere Yellow Jackets on. But so Valentine's Day, we're getting 2 new episodes, and so it's going to premiere on streaming and on demand for Paramount Plus subscribers with the Paramount Plus with Showtime plan before its linear debut. So, before its linear debut on February 16th. So that's interesting. So what day is the 14th? Let me just check here real quick. The 14th is a Friday. Okay, so that's interesting. So the show is actually going to be airing on the 16th, I guess. It looks like, because it's usually a Sunday show, right? I think from what I remember, I think it's a Sunday show on Showtime. But I always remember that I would be able to get the episode like at Sunday at midnight. So I would technically usually watch the episodes on Saturday nights. If I stayed up till midnight on Saturday and I watched the episode. So this is interesting. So I wonder if it's just for the release date that we're going to get the 2 episodes on the Friday. And then going forward, it'll be the 16th, or if every episode will be available on Fridays. So that's interesting. We'll have to kind of hear more about that. It doesn't say much more than that. So that's interesting, actually. That's kind of a twist that I didn't know about. But yeah, so anyways, 2 new episodes, though. Episode 1 and 2 of Season 3 will come out on the Friday, then Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2025. So this is big. And then obviously a teaser trailer accompanied this announcement, and it was released, and it's about 15 seconds. It's really not much. It's just Season 3 coming soon. And I think it says, like, eat your heart out on Valentine's Day 2025, something like that. So, kind of funny with that kind of log line there, but anyways, it's really not much. Really not much of a teaser. No actors or anything are seen, but it does say, as previously reported, Joel McHale and Hilary Swank will guest star in the new season, which I hadn't heard of Hilary Swank. Her name being attached. Maybe I just missed that, but that's an interesting little twist to things. And it also says that Elijah Wood is returning for Season 3, which I didn't actually expect. I wasn't sure that he would, come back. I thought that was more of just a guest, spot for a season. But it sounds like he's coming back. So, that's awesome. I loved him in Season 2. He was definitely one of the strong points for me there. So, yeah, pretty big news here. I think we knew, I listened to some interviews with the creators a while ago saying that we would get it early 2025. So this really lines up with what they said already. But, yeah, good to get confirmation on this one for sure. And definitely looking forward. Like I said, I think Season 2 was a bit of a step down from Season 1, but so much potential with this show, and especially the teenager timeline is just so intriguing to me. They have said that they have a 5-season plan, so we'll have to see how Season 3 fits into things here, how far they're willing to go with things before we get to Season 5. But anyways, so I'm just really excited to see kind of where they go. I am hoping that it kind of returns to form a little bit, and the quality is a little bit better in terms of the writing, at least. Now, I still have concerns, though, about the end of Season 2. The creators did say that they had about an hour of footage, like edited footage, I think, that was just completely cut from Season 2 of the show, because Season 2 only had 9 episodes, I think, and, I think they essentially shot the show to have 10 episodes, something like that I heard. So I'm still wondering if we're ever going to see that hour of footage. They did say that they would release it at some point, so I don't know if that maybe I missed that or something like that, but I think that footage that they cut would actually help, because that was one of the main issues with the ending of Season 2 was just like, it felt like something was missing. Like you could actually tell that, within the editing, like it felt like scenes were missing here. Like I needed a little more information about some stuff. So anyways, we'll just see what happens with that. If that ever comes out, or maybe that comes out along with Season 3, or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But anyways, looking forward to Season 3 nonetheless of Yellow Jackets. Definitely be there on the night it premieres, to February 14th then, 2025. Okay, so great news there for Yellow Jackets Season 3, and really looking forward to that one in February there. Okay, so then the last news topic here, I just picked 2 for this week along with the main topic here. So the next one, kind of a smaller one, but this one is Kaylee Cuoco, a comedy Kansas City star from Hacks creators, nears HBO series Order. So that's the headline here. I forgot to mention, right, these articles are linked in the description. The first article, the IGN article that I mentioned about The Last of Us is in there. The Yellow Jackets Variety article that I just read, and then this one on Deadline is also in the description. So feel free to go there and check them out for yourself. But anyways, that's the headline from Deadline for this one. So, in a bidding situation, HBO has landed one of the highest profile comedy packages to hit the marketplace in a while. Titled Kansas City Star, the half-hour project is headlined and executive produced by Kaley Cuoco. Obviously the flight attendant, Big Bang Theory, some of the stuff that she's been on. And it's created and executive produced by the Hacks trio of Lucia Aniello, Paul W. Downs, and Jen Statsky. Sources tell Deadline. Deals are still being finalized, but the comedy is expected to get a series order, I hear. And then, says some stuff about the producers and all that stuff. It says, details about Kansas City Star are sketchy, but it is described by sources as a comedy with heart, starring Cuoco as a semi-famous actress who returns to her hometown to work with a regional theater troupe. But it says reps for HBO declined comment, so they don't have a confirmation, I guess, on that being kind of the synopsis or the concept for the show, but that's kind of what they're hearing. That's what it sounds like it will be. So, very interesting. It does say some stuff about other HBO shows, how they've greenlit some other comedies. So, again, if you want to go into the article and check that out for yourself. It should be in the description there. But yeah, so it does say this is Cuoco's latest streaming series since her 12-season starring turn on The Big Bang Theory, obviously. And the Kansas City Star follows dark Warner Brothers TV comedy drama The Flight Attendant that was on Max, which earned her 3 Emmy nominations. And she was also in a Peacock show based on a true story. I don't think I watched that one. So anyways, this is interesting. I'm a pretty big fan of Hacks. I don't think it's, my favorite show necessarily, but I do get a lot of laughs out of Hacks. I think season 3, overall as a season, it was a little underwhelming to me. I think it still might be the best season though of the show. But parts of it were really good, really great, and I was really impressed. So it was kind of an uneven season, but like I said, the highs I think are the highest that the show has seen so far. So, yeah, I do like Hacks. I did like, a lot of this recent season. And so to hear that the creators of Hacks are coming into another show, I think is really exciting. And, of course, have a name like Kaley Cuoco attached, especially after her success with The Flight Attendant, which I actually didn't even know ended. I thought that was still going, but I guess it has ended. So to see her, kind of in a new turn here for HBO with another comedy, I think this sounds really cool, really awesome, and it sounds kind of in the same vein of Hacks, doing another, kind of Hollywood, right, she says she's a semi-famous actress, right? So it's again, another actress, kind of Hollywood industry type show that they're kind of going into here. So yeah, I think this sounds really promising. I do wonder, because Hack Season 4 is coming. I think it's been renewed there. Let me just make sure on that. I think it has been renewed though already. Hack Season 4. I think it is coming. It is coming for Hack Season 4. So they're already working on Season 4. I'm not sure how many more seasons of Hacks that they'll do. I think actually they have said that around 5 is kind of their goal. So perhaps, they'll be done Season 4 by the time this gets ordered, and then maybe they go on to this after Hacks is done or something like that. I don't know, but I'm really looking forward to see what the show has in store. And I think a lot of fans of Hacks will probably enjoy this one too. So that's basically it for this story here. Looking forward to this new comedy on HBO for sure. All right, so that'll just about do it then for that news topic there. Kaley Cuoco new show on HBO from the Hacks creators, and yeah, that'll just about do it, I guess, for all of my topics here that I had to discuss for this week's episode here of Let's Talk Television. We went over This Week in TV, went to the main topic there. And, of course, the news topics then at the end. So, yeah, that's about all I have for this episode. Thank you to those. Looks like we did have some people here tuning in live. So thank you to those, who were tuning in live. And looks like it. So, anyways, thank you for those who tuned in live. And, of course, those, I'm sure the majority of people will be watching along after, the stream goes public here, I believe. So, anyways, that'll just about do it. So, hopefully, next Sunday, or this upcoming Sunday, we should be good to go. So, hopefully, the next episode of Let's Talk Television then will be Sunday. Again, not exactly sure what we'll talk about, but, we'll see what the news kind of brings us. If a topic kind of excites me and that stuff, we'll definitely, go into something like that. But anyways, that'll just about do it. The Sweet Pea review I just put out a couple days ago, so that's on the channel. What else? I'll probably do a review for the franchise Season 1, I think next week when the finale airs for that one. And what else? Shadows, we have a few more weeks of. Oh, we do have, I think, a new show. Actually, I think it's this week now that I think about it. I think Thursday or Friday with Ted Danson. It's A Man on the Inside, I think it's called, on Netflix. So I think I will be watching at least the first episode of that one and probably talking about that next week. And maybe I do a review for it on the channel. We'll have to see. But anyways, some stuff to look forward to for next week. But anyways, guys, once again, thank you guys so much for watching. And we'll see you then for next week for Let's Talk Television. All right, take care. Bye-bye.